Yeah, hurley! What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with the one and only Punk 02 Lilith Guide. Now, I think she's the definition of a mid unit. She is about a 5 or 6 out of 10. Depending on who you're against, she might even be just a 4. It depends on what your team is and who you're playing against. I think she's an entertaining unit, but overall, she's solidly alright. So if you're really enjoying playing her, here's an overall guide. As always, if you have not familiarized yourself with her skills and her traits, please take a look and go over those right now, as I will not be directly going over those in this video. First things first, as always, is the stat recommendations. What traits should you put on your medals that you're going to build out? I generally recommend attack and HP because you're going to want to be able to attack, otherwise you'll have no way to hold your own flag. Many units are able to just grab the flags themselves. You're going to want to be able to wither people down, and the more HP you have, the bigger your shield and the stronger your shield gets, because that goes off your 150% of your max HP. And then you have your attack. You're just going to want to be able to kill people, and the more attack you have, you'll be one-shotting devil fruit users with your skill 1, which is just that big rapid fire cannon skill, which is really fun overall. So it is nice to have attack. Your basic attacks will do a little bit of damage to people as well, and you'll be able to wither them down. Remember, don't forget to always just 1-2 your basic attacks. Now for the tips and tricks section, there's not really much to go over. She's relatively simple, and there's not many rules to playing her. Just generally with your skill 2, try and place it on top of the flag so people can't run and grab the flag. Now there is this weird mechanic, I don't know if it's a bug or whatever, but if the enemy presses their capture the flag button, and while the bubble is covering the flag, they will be locked into the position of just running into the bubble, and they will not be able to move. So you'll notice throughout these games that some of the enemies will just be sitting there running into the bubble, not attacking, not dodging, just sitting there running into the bubble. That's because they tried spamming the cap flag button, and then they end up just getting locked into that position. So you'll be able to do that to a lot of people while you're playing the game. So make sure you cover that flag with that bubble. That's really the only thing to keep in mind when you're playing Lilith. Other than that, everything else is pretty generic. Just maybe position yourself well for the skill 1, but you're not always going to be able to do that because you're a defender, so you're meant to stay on a flag specifically. So really, that's not even too much in your control as well. So just keep that in mind. That's about it for the tips and tricks. All right, let's talk about the Lilith Pros. Now, honestly, I think she's fantastic. She's a solid 7, maybe even an 8 against devil fruit users. But the problem is the meta right now is not devil fruit users, at least at the time of this video. Maybe when it changes, you may have a better time to shine. But for her pros, you have huge damage towards devil fruit users. You have damage increase towards them. Your skill 1 has extra damage. You do a lot of damage. You have that bubble shield, so you don't take any damage, supposedly, unless they have the ability to go through walls. We'll get into that later. You have high damage reduction, large amounts of damage reduction. So if you build the Grand Line, you'll even have even more damage reduction. If you have Grand Line Zoan support, you'll have 15% damage reduction from reds and lights, and then you'll have an extra 15% reduction from greens as well if you have Grand Line. So you'll have that. Remove attack buffs on devil fruit users. You have that going for you. You have an attack buff when enemies try to take the flag that you are in, and you get cooldown for your bubble. You have damage increase to devil fruit users. I already kind of went over that. You have a large amount of knockbacks on each of your skills, so you can bump them back. I run a Luffy year 5 set where you heal 3% of your HP from knocking people back, so I get an extra heals from that, which is actually really, really nice, and I get a decent amount of usage out of that. You are also immune to status effects, knockback, and stagger while you are on your flag, so you can actually wail on people. So really it just comes down to a kill or be killed, whoever kills fastest. This is why you want to build attack on there, so you can kind of do some hefty amounts of damage. You also recover 15% of HP from percent damage, so when Lucci comes in and cuts you for 70%, or when Roger comes in and cuts you for 50%, you'll heal back 50% of that, so you'll get a bunch of that back. So if you were to be cut down to 50% HP, you'd actually be at 75% HP, which is really nice. Now let's talk about the cons. You're not very good against devil fruit users, I'm going to be honest. Roger, Shanks, Kamusaris, those are your enemies. There's just many abilities at this point in time that go through walls. And most of these abilities of the people using them are not devil fruit users. So the meta is really working against you at this point in time. Now, if you're watching this video like a year down the line, maybe the meta's full of Devil Fruit users and you're able to shine a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see if, first off, skills that go through walls go away, as well as Devil Fruit users come more into the meta. You are relatively reliant on your wall, so this means if there's a lot of damage going off, there's just everyone's fighting on the same flag, your bubble's just going to disappear instantly because there's so much raw damage happening. You're not going to have anything to hide against. Now, you do have lots of damage increase, but it seems like everyone just has fat amounts of damage increase towards defenders. There's things like Uta's skills. There's things like Roger's skills. Like, all these things do fat damage increase to you, so really your damage reduction is almost negligible when it comes to fighting most people, unless they're an older unit. On top of that, you don't have heals outside of Devil Fruit users unless you build them in your metal set like I did with the 3% heal on knockback. We'll get into that fully later in the metal set recommendations. Now let's talk about the characters you counter. Honestly, you're a defender, so you just defend, so you don't directly counter too many people, but I would say the main ones are EX CP0 Lucci, the Awakened Lucci. He is phenomenal unit, and he actually can get destroyed by you because you get rid of his attack buffs. You can just shred him, you reduce the defense, you heal off him. You have so many things going for you, and you got the bubble to protect you all while you're doing it. And you can one-shot him too with that bubble skill, which is really nice. Same with Bluno, you one-shot him with your skill 1. It feels ever so fantastic when you do. On top of that, Dark Uta. Dark Uta is a little more problematic because that pumpkin does take like 3 bubbles, I believe, to kill. So if she caps the flag before you kill the pumpkin, it can be problematic. And on top of that, she has her shield as well. So you do counter her, but she can still somewhat take flags. So you do have to be somewhat careful when you're fighting her. But you are able to protect it if your flag is fully charged, which is nice. Now let's talk about counters. Honestly, who destroys Lilith is the main meta right now. Sadly, it is both the Rogers. You have Green Roger, you have Dark Roger. They hurt a lot. So their combos already go through walls, so your bubble doesn't even protect you. You'll get one shot, and if you don't get one shot, they'll just wither you down because you can't kill them before they kill you because all of their skills are literally meant to one shot, which is truly unfortunate. But it is what it is. On top of that, you have Light Shanks. Again, you can wither him down, but he's got the commissary that goes through walls, which ignores defense. Now, you're not building defense, so really the ignore defense doesn't do too much, but it still goes through walls and it still can chunk you, and usually Lilith is kind of a person who gets like locked in place, so just be careful with that when you're using that skill 1. You don't want to just like eat everything. So just watch out for things that go through walls. Now, I'm sure someone like Who's Who could actually destroy her as well, but not very many people play him, so you don't have too much to be concerned about for him. And I don't think he will likely come back into the meta. We'll see. Just the main things that counter you are really things that go through walls. So commissaries, Who's Who, skill 1. There's other abilities like Kuma, Bartholomew Kuma, Mihawk. There's a bunch of different skills out there that go through walls. You just have to play the game and you'll figure out which ones, or read abilities too. So those are your counters to Lilith. Now let's talk about the metal recommendations. As always, I have the Kaido set on here. I just can't not because it's going to be good because you offer damage increase, damage reduction, skill cooldown on skill 1, which is your gun, your damage move. Like, all of this offers so much for her. And then, of course, honestly, I think this has been my favorite so far is the knockback heal Luffy. This one you get a little bit of heals, you get the damage reduction, you get some damage increase, you get some solid set for defenders. Honestly, I really do enjoy that Luffy set overall. That's what I use on S-Snake as well. On top of that, you have the damage reduction Enel. I think it's really good. Just make sure you have the stacked full HP attack, but that is pure damage reduction, and it also comes with no cap speed, so that thing can be a little bit limiting if you have to take the flag as a defender, which can be kind of a bummer. And then I just threw this on there, the mix and match CP9 medals. Now, those aren't the only ones. If you just filter by the CP9 tag or the 6 powers tag, you'll be able to come across all the CP9 medals. There are a bunch of options, so if you have any of those CP9 units, then those will be available to you as well. And then I threw this. The Navy starter set is just the punk, like Vegapunk medals. These are there as the current event set, so I think they're an option if you would like to go that route. You don't have to, but it is a choice if you would like to choose that. Overall, you guys, that is my Lilith guide. I hope you guys found this useful. I think she's just an alright unit, honestly, just kind of an out of blue. I think she's more there for the yacht rather than the skill or the like be good at the game. So it was just kind of a milker of a unit, and I think in more ways than one. So let me know what you guys think of her down below. I hope you guys found this video useful, and I'm Romanpuss. Make sure to check out my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, all in the links down below. But that's all I have for you guys. I'm gonna be taking off. Yeah, holy peace, beautiful people.